Most people go into retirement asking one question: do I have enough? And that's an important question, but I think it's only half of the question. The better question is, can my income keep up with my life? Now, that matters because retirement isn't one long season, it changes. At the beginning, you have the go go years, and that's when people want to travel, spend time with their family, take trips, and enjoy the freedom that they work so hard for. Then comes those slow go years, and that's when comfort matters more than adventure. Now, you may still be active, but your spending patterns start to change. And then eventually you get to what's called the no go years. And that's where healthcare, long term care, support, and legacy planning become much more important. So when I think about retirement planning, I don't just want to know if money lasts. I want to know if income can grow with life. Because life doesn't stay flat. Expenses, they don't stay flat. Healthcare doesn't stay flat. And retirement income shouldn't stay flat either. Today, I want to walk you through three different ways people approach retirement income, and then I want to show you a fourth method that I believe does a better job of creating not just income, but future income raises. And to make this practical, I'm going to use one simple case study. So let's say we have a couple, Dan and Mary, and they're 65 years old. They're retiring with $1.5 million. They would like to generate $10,000 per month. Now, if you're factoring Social Security income of, let's say, $5,000, they need to generate an additional $5,000 per month or $60,000 per year from their portfolio. Their goal is simple: create reliable income, protect their lifestyle, and then build something that can adjust as their life changes. So let's explore the three popular methods. Method one is the probability method. This is the approach most people are familiar with. It's the idea that you take a percentage of your portfolio each year, and then statistically, the money should last. Now, a common example is the 4% approach. So if our couple, Dan and Mary, has $1.5 million, they might look at that and say, okay, if we take 4%, that gives us about $60,000 a year. And on paper, that sounds reasonable. It's simple, it's easy to understand, and it keeps the money invested. Now, that is definitely one of the strengths of this approach. But here's the problem. This method depends heavily on assumptions. It depends on what the market does. It depends on when you retire. It depends on the sequence of returns. And it depends on whether the portfolio behaves in a way that supports those withdrawals over time. Now, let me give you a simple example. Imagine two scenarios for Dan and Mary. Now remember, they're retiring with $1.5 million, and one of their goals is to protect their lifestyle. Let's say they retire into a strong market, and then the other scenario is they retire before a market downturn. Both scenarios using the same withdrawal percentage, both scenarios are going to take the same income, but the outcomes can be very different. That's one of the risks of the probability method. It gives them a number, but it doesn't give them protection if the market gets ugly early. And it also doesn't really give them a true mechanism for future income raises. Now, it may tell them how to spend the money, but it doesn't tell them how to make income grow with their life. So this method can be useful, but it's incomplete. And that's important to understand. Because a retirement plan isn't just about what looks good at the beginning, it's about what still works 10, 15, 20, or 30 years later. The second method is the safety method. Now, this is where we focus on creating a protected income floor. In our example, let's say Dan and Mary buys an annuity backed by the claims paying ability of an insurance company to generate $60,000 a year of guaranteed lifetime income. Now, Dan and Mary have something powerful. They have a lifetime private pension floor. That means their core lifestyle is no longer depending entirely on the market. Their basic bills can be covered, their foundation is protected, and that brings peace of mind. Now, a lot of clients really like this part of the conversation because it helps remove fear. They know what their base income is. They know their essentials are covered. And that can make retirement feel much more stable. But there's still a trade-off. If all Dan and Mary do is create the safety floor, then they may not be fully using the rest of the assets for growth. They stay conservative because of the concerns around market volatility. And if income stays flat for the rest of retirement, then inflation, healthcare, travel, long-term care costs can slowly make the plan feel tighter over time. So let me say that another way. A guaranteed income floor is great, but if that floor never rises, then the client may still feel pressure later in life. And that means the safety method solves one major problem, but it doesn't fully solve the future income problem. It protects the base, but it doesn't automatically create raises. And that's the key limitation with the safety method. The third method is the bucket method. Now, this one is really popular because it's easy to understand and easy to visualize. You divide the money into buckets based on time horizon. One bucket might cover near-term needs. Another might cover medium-term spending. And another might be set aside for long-term growth. That can be very helpful because it gives the client a sense of organization. It can also help reduce panic during market volatility. If the markets drop, the client feels better knowing that they aren't forced to touch all of their long-term assets right away. And that's a real advantage. The bucket method can be very helpful for behavior, but here's the issue. Buckets help organize the money. They don't necessarily engineer the income, and that's the difference. Buckets can tell you where the money is. They don't always tell you how to turn market success, though, into future income raises. They can help with decision making, but they don't always give you a disciplined process for increasing income over time. So again, this method has value. It can absolutely help clients feel more comfortable, but by itself, it still leaves an important question unanswered. How do we make retirement income grow on purpose? Now let's get to the fourth method, and this is the one I think makes the whole plan more complete. I call it the retirement pay raise method, and the idea is simple. We separate the wealth into two engines. The first engine is the private pension floor. Now, that is the part of the plan that covers the non-negotiable basics. The second engine is the dynamic growth engine. That's the part of the portfolio that stays invested for long-term growth. So instead of trying to make one pool of money do every job, we give each part a specific job. One part protects the base, the other part has the potential to grow for future income needs. Now that matters because it changes the way the plan works. If the market's down, we're not forced to sell growth assets just to fund the basics. If the market is up, we have a disciplined process for capturing gains. And that is where the pay raise idea comes in. So let's go back to our couple, Dan and Mary. Now, remember, they have $1.5 million, and Dan and Mary use about $900,000 to create this guaranteed income floor, which gives them $60,000 a year. Now, that takes care of the base. Then the rest stays invested as the growth engine. Now, here's the important part. Now you set parameters to engineer more income. Dan and Mary determined that every 3 years we review the growth engine. If the portfolio is up and there are gains to harvest, we can move part of those gains into another guaranteed income layer. That creates a permanent raise in income. So now Dan and Mary isn't just protecting their current income, they're creating a structured way to increase it. And that's the difference. This isn't about guessing what the market will do. It's not about chasing returns. It's about creating a disciplined system that knows how to use gains when they happen. Let me make this even more concrete. Imagine Dan and Mary starts with $60,000 a year. If the portfolio has grown and there are gains available, we may be able to shift some of those gains into another layer of guaranteed income. For example, let's say Dan and Mary saw their growth portfolio rise from $600,000 to $800,000. That gives us a $200,000 gain to work with. Now, in this example, we could use part of that gain to create an additional $16,000 of lifetime income. Now, that would raise their income from $60,000 to $76,000 while still leaving the remaining growth portfolio invested for future opportunities. Instead of just celebrating the gain and leaving it sitting there, we can harvest part of it and convert it into additional lifetime income. Now their income goes up. Maybe it doesn't happen every year, but that's okay. This isn't designed to be automatic every month. It's designed to be intentional every few years. Then a few years later, maybe the market is flat or down. Well, in that case, we do nothing. We don't force a bad decision. We don't panic. We let the growth engine recover and wait for the next review. Then if the market is up again at the next review, we may create another raise. So over time, income has the potential to step up as the portfolio creates opportunities. That's why I like this approach, because it gives us structure, it gives us discipline, and it gives us a way to connect market success to future income. Now, why does this matter? This matters because retirement isn't static. The go-go years often require more flexibility and more spending. The slow-go years often require more stability and comfort. And the no-go years may bring higher healthcare costs, long-term care needs, or legacy goals. So if a retirement plan never changes, it can slowly fall behind what life actually requires. But if the plan has a built-in process for turning gains into future income raises, then it can adapt better over time. That can help with inflation. It can help with long-term care costs. It can help with confidence. It can help clients feel like their plan isn't just safe, but also purposeful. So when I look at these four methods together, here's how I see them. The probability method gives you flexibility, but it can be exposed to market timing risk. The safety method gives you certainty, but it can be too static if it's used alone. The bucket method gives you organization, but it doesn't always create an income raise strategy. And the retirement pay raise method combines protection, growth, and discipline into a structure that's designed to create future income increases over time. That's why I like it. It's not just about making retirement last. It's about helping retirement income keep up with retirement life. At the end of the day, most people want to know one thing. Will I be okay? And that's fair. But I think there's an even better question. Will my income keep up with the life that I want to live? Because the goal isn't just to survive retirement. The goal is to create a retirement income plan that can adjust as life changes. And that's what the retirement pay raise method is really about. It's a disciplined system for turning gains into future income raises. And for the right client, that can be the difference between a retirement that just holds steady and a retirement that actually has room to grow. If you'd like a complimentary analysis on how the retirement pay raise method can help you feel more confident about your retirement, click the link in the description below.